Hi everybody, welcome back to Alexis University. This week we're going to be talking about procrastination. I am the biggest procrastinator. Let me just say that right now as a disclaimer. I am the biggest procrastinator, so I already know talking about this is going to be like contradicting everything that I do in my normal everyday life, but it's important for you to not be a procrastinator. So for me, I was the biggest procrastinator in college. I always waited to the last minute to do things, and it kind of bit me in the butt a few times because I'm like, oh wait, have like 3 assignments due and they're all due at midnight. I actually remember a time where I was coming back from like vacation or something, and I had like 3 assignments due. I had a paper due, I had a quiz due, and then I also had another assignment due, and like the bus broke down. So now I'm sitting here with no Wi-Fi, and I'm like, I need to finish these 3 assignments, and they're all due at midnight. So I emailed my professor like, hey, I kind of, I want this bus. My bus broke down. I emailed them, sent them a picture, and he was like, oh, I feel like you have a lot going on in your life. Just turn it on Thursday. Thank you. Thank you. But every professor is not going to do that. So you need to make sure that you prepare well in advance so that you're not in that type of situation. One thing I will say that will help you with procrastination is getting a planner. So for me, I have a planner. I have like 5 planners. I buy planners all the time because I'm like, oh, this planner is pretty. And I'm really bad at using them. But I found that for me, putting things on my phone calendar works much better than writing them down in my day planner, because I'm always on my phone, or I always have my phone with me. And with my planner, I'm not always like with my planner. So sometimes it's at home and I'm like, oh man, I was supposed to do something tomorrow and I need to prepare for that. What am I supposed to be doing? So if I have it on my phone, it's just right there in my hand. I can just look at it real quick and say, oh, got an assignment due tomorrow. I can work on that tonight where I am, or I can think of ideas for this paper that's due next week, or whatever the case may be. But getting a planner will definitely be one of those things that helps with procrastination. Another thing is giving yourself pre-deadlines. So for me, I think like at least a week in advance gives myself plenty of time to say, okay, hey, I'm going to start this assignment the week before it's due. And then after I start the assignment, I have like all week to ask my professor questions, or to even, flesh out any last minute details, because once that assignment is done, it's like a huge weight is lifted off of me, and I'm just like, whew, okay, I got that done, and now it's time for me to do something different. And then a lot of times in college, sometimes professors will start piling things on because, yes, they do know that you have other classes, but at the same time, like, you signed up for their class, you knew the course load, you knew the coursework was going to be difficult, you should have just prepared in advance. And that's kind of what they expect you to do, because if you think about it, when you get into the real world and you have a deadline for your job, they're not just going to be like, you know what, turn it in next week, turn it in. No, they're going to be like, this is our policy, we have deadlines here, and if you can't follow that policy, we're going to have to put you on probation, and eventually they'll just let you go, because there's going to be somebody out there who's going to be way more organized and who's going to make sure they're above the deadlines. Like for me, I work in a field that's deadline driven. Like, we have to get things on the air by 4:30 a.m. every morning, and if something is not done, like, you can't put the show on the air. So you have to have those strict deadlines, and keeping yourself within those deadlines and always giving yourself those early deadlines is something that will definitely help you out. Another thing that I think will help you out is find groups of people to work with that are in your class that also have themselves on strict deadlines. Because sometimes your professor will say, oh, you should have came to me when I first assigned that. And you're like, well, it's still a week early. And they're like, yeah, but you should have came to me when you first assigned that. Or the week before, you're like, hey, if I write this paper up, can you read it on Saturday and then give it back to me by Sunday so I can turn it in by Friday? And they're like, you should have came to me early in the semester. Like, you already had your syllabus. So one thing I used to do in college, as soon as I got my syllabus, I would write down all the assignments that I had that I knew were coming up, just based off the syllabus. And then when new things came up, I just kind of added those to my planner. So I already had those deadlines in my planner, and then I would push back like a pre-deadline and say, okay, this is what I'm going to have do this week, but I also know that this is my first deadline, and for me, that means like try to have it done by this time. You still have a few extra days, but if you get it done by this time, you won't be stressed, and that is what is the most key part in college. There are going to be a lot of things in college that stress you out, But if you make sure that you are over preparing yourself for things that you can control and things that you can manage on your own, then you'll be set for success. Because that procrastination piece, think about it like this. If you're preparing for a job interview and you're just like, okay, let me prepare for this job interview, you don't go to the day before or the day of and think like, okay, what kind of question are they going to ask me? What am I going to research about this company so that I can be the best for my job interview? Like, no, you're going to prepare days in advance. So kind of think of every assignment as if it's a job interview. You're going to prepare days in advance. You're going to have all these questions prepared. Like, if they were to ask me these questions in an interview, what would I be saying? So think of it like that. If your professor asks you these questions as if it's an interview, will you be prepared for that interview that's a week from today? If the answer is no, then you need to make sure that you're getting better at getting organized. A lot of schools, they give out free planners to freshmen especially, but sometimes they have a student services center where they'll just have planners, and I think like the first 6 weeks of school, like they'll give out free planners, and if you just go there, get you a planner, I think it'll be really helpful and vital to your success. I think that planner can serve many purposes, even with not just scheduling your homework, but scheduling activities or organizations you want to go to. Because if you know you have an organization meeting every third Thursday and you also have an assignment due that third Thursday, you don't want to miss that meeting because you're like, oh, wait, I have an assignment due and I haven't even started it yet. So if you make sure that you have that assignment done like the week before, now it's like, oh, I do have an assignment due this week, but I already finished it. I already turned it in. Or I have an assignment due this week. I already finished it. I just need to make sure that I go back and spell check it right before the meeting starts. So then now you're not being rushed, and now you're not like, oh man, I gotta miss this meeting because I have to finish my homework. Like, I feel like that's not an excuse, and it really bothers me when people use those type of excuses, because I feel like that organization meeting is just as important as your homework. Little do you know, like, that organization and being around those like-minded individuals can really help you and think about like, okay, how can I get like this person who's the president of this organization? How can I get to where they are? Because they had to plan, they had to prep and prepare for people to even vote for them to become the president of that organization. So if you think about it like that, like, make sure that organization is also something that you take very seriously. It's also something that you make sure that is at the top of your priority list. Don't call in to work sick because you're like, oh, I gotta do my homework. No, like, that's not an excuse. So that procrastination, just get that out of your head. And if you start early and get everything done early, as far as like planning ahead, all that, procrastination won't even be in your vocabulary. You'll always be ahead. And I think that's so important in college, because there are a lot of times where midterms come up and you're just like, oh my goodness, I have so many assignments due, have so many tests to study for, or finals come up, it's like, man, I got to get these last few assignments in, but you've had the syllabus since August, and you knew about this 25-page paper that's due in December. Like, you already knew about this, so why did you wait till December 1st and the paper due December 15th? And now you're trying to rush to make sure all the research is done properly. You're trying to rush to do all these different things. But if you wouldn't have procrastinated, then you would have been all set to go. And December 1st, you would have been like, okay, when is a Dropbox opening? Because I'm ready to turn this in. So make sure that you are just overly prepared. Make sure that you are not procrastinating, because it'll definitely get you far, not only in college, but in your workplace too. So if you have any questions, you can email me at info@alexisuniversity.com. Thank you so much for watching this video about procrastination, and I hope to see you soon.